For 3 months, I slept in my own backyard. Not because I was poor, not because I had nowhere else to go, but because my son's wife stood in the doorway and said, "This house belongs to my husband. You don't live here anymore." My son works out of state, traveling city to city, and she made sure he never heard the truth. Every time he called, she'd smile sweetly and say, "Your mom is fine. She went to visit her sister." But I wasn't with my sister. I was in a broken tent behind my own house, cooking on a rusted camping stove, washing my face with garden hose water, while she slept comfortably inside the home I built with my late husband. And then, after 3 long months, the truth shattered like glass the night my son came home early and found me shivering in the backyard under a torn tarp with rain dripping through. His expression changed the second he turned toward the house, because inside there was no trace of me, just his wife, feet up on the couch, living like the queen of a kingdom that was never hers. That night, everything exploded. I didn't move into the garden in one day. It happened slowly, quietly, the way dignity leaves a woman when no one is watching. The first night, she didn't tell me to go outside. She just locked the bedroom door. I stood there in the hallway, knocking softly, thinking maybe she hadn't heard me. When I called her name, she answered from inside without opening the door. "Please don't create drama. Sleep on the couch." I did. The second night, the couch was covered with her shopping bags. She didn't look up from her phone. "There's no space today." I slept on the floor. By the fourth night, she sighed loudly and said the sentence that changed everything. "If you're going to live here like a burden, at least don't be in my way." That night, I walked out to the garden with my pillow. At first, it was temporary. I told myself just one night, tomorrow things will be normal. I found an old camping tent my son had used years ago. The zipper was broken. The fabric smelled like damp earth. I pitched it behind the house, near the lemon tree my husband had planted before he died. I slept with my coat on. When morning came, I washed my face using the garden hose. The water was freezing. I told myself, at least I'm still strong. Cooking became another quiet humiliation. She stopped leaving food for me. If I entered the kitchen, she'd suddenly need it, loudly, aggressively, banging cabinets like I didn't belong. So I brought out an old single-burner stove. I cooked lentils in a dented pot, sitting on an upside-down crate. Neighbors probably thought I was renovating the yard. No one asked questions. People rarely ask when the victim learns to stay silent. My son called every Sunday. I could hear her voice change when she answered his calls, soft, cheerful, loving. "She's fine, honey," she'd say, smiling in my direction. "She's resting, watching TV, visiting friends." I stood 10 feet away, holding laundry in my hands, too afraid to interrupt. When he asked to talk to me, she'd bring the phone outside and stand right there. "Don't say anything unnecessary," she whispered once. "You don't want to stress him." So I said I was fine. Every time. Weeks passed, then months. 3 months of rain leaking through torn fabric. 3 months of mosquitoes, ants, cold nights, aching joints. 3 months of pretending this was normal. The house behind me was warm. Lights on, music playing, curtains drawn, and I was outside, counting stars like they were days on a prison wall. What hurt the most wasn't the cold. It wasn't the hunger. It was the silence. Because silence means someone decided you no longer mattered enough to be cruel loudly. I still believe my son would never allow this. If he only knew. I kept waiting for the day he'd call and say, "Mom, I'm coming home early." I didn't know that day was already closer than I thought. And I didn't know that when he finally arrived, everything we were pretending not to see would come crashing down. Right there in the backyard. That morning felt ordinary. That's what still scares me the most. I woke up before sunrise, my back stiff, my knees aching from the cold ground. The tent floor was damp. Somewhere, a cat knocked over my pot from the night before. I folded my blanket carefully, not because it mattered, but because routine was the only thing keeping me sane. I had just put the kettle on my small stove when I heard a sound I hadn't heard in months. A car. Not the neighbors. Not the delivery van. This one stopped right in front of the house. I froze, through the leaves of the lemon tree. I saw a familiar shape step out. A tall man, travel jacket, work bag slung over his shoulder. For 1 second, my heart refused to believe my eyes. Then my legs started shaking. It was my son. He wasn't supposed to be home for another 2 weeks. He told us he was stuck overseas, back-to-back projects, no breaks. He walked up the driveway, smiling, phone in hand, probably recording a surprise video for his wife. He rang the doorbell. No answer. He rang it again. Still nothing. I saw his smile fade just a little. Then he looked around, and that's when his eyes landed on the tent. At first he laughed. A short, confused laugh. The kind people make when they think they're missing a joke. He walked closer. Read the faded brand name on the fabric. His childhood camping tent. The one he had packed away years ago. He bent down and touched the zipper. It broke completely in his hand. "Mom," he called out. I wanted to answer immediately, but my throat closed. I stepped out from behind the tree, barefoot, hair tied back poorly, wearing the same sweater I'd worn for 3 nights straight. He stared at me, not speaking, just staring. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then his bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the ground. "Why?" he finally said, voice cracking. "Why are you standing outside?" I tried to smile, the way mothers do when they don't want their children to worry. "Oh, this," I said lightly. "I like fresh air." The lie didn't even sound convincing to me. He looked past me, at the stove, the crate, the clothesline tied between 2 trees, at the pot with burnt lentils stuck to the bottom, at the worn mat I slept on. Each second, his face changed. Confusion, shock, and then something darker. He rushed toward the back door and tried to open it. Locked. He knocked hard. No response. He knocked again, louder. Finally, the door opened. His wife stood there, perfectly dressed, coffee mug in hand. "Oh," she said calmly. "You're early." He didn't yell. That scared me more than if he had. "Why is my mother living in the garden?" he asked quietly. She shrugged. "She likes it out there." She said she wanted space. He turned back to me. "Mom, is that true?" I opened my mouth, and then I saw her eyes behind him, warning, sharp. For 3 months, I had protected him from the truth. For 3 months, I had stayed quiet. But in that moment, standing barefoot on cold ground, I realized silence was no longer love. "No," I said. Just one word. "No." His face broke. He turned back to the house. And this time, he walked inside without asking permission. That was the moment the lies started collapsing. And that was the moment my son finally saw the home he thought he knew, for what it really was. The moment my son stepped inside the house, his phone rang. Not a soft ringtone. The sharp, urgent kind that makes your stomach tighten before you even answer. He looked at the screen. His face drained of color. I need to take this," he said, already walking away. I stood there just outside the back door, my hands folded in front of me like a guest waiting to be invited into her own home. Through the open window, I heard his voice drop. "Yes, I understand today." A pause. Another pause, longer this time. "No warning?" he asked. "I just got back." Silence. Then a quiet broke in. "Okay." The call ended. He leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at nothing. His wife didn't ask what happened. She already knew. "What is it?" I asked softly. He looked at me, trying to smile, the same way I used to when he was a child, and I didn't want him to know we were struggling. "They let me go," he said. "Project cuts. Budget issues." He laughed once without humor. Guess my surprise visit was well timed. My heart sank. In 1 minute, my son had lost his job and was standing in a house that suddenly didn't feel like his anymore. He rubbed his face, then looked straight at me. "Mom," he said gently, "tell me the truth now." His wife crossed her arms. He ignored her. "Have they been treating you badly while I was gone?" The room went silent. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the clock ticking. Every truth I had swallowed for 3 months rose to my throat at once. The locked doors, the cold nights, the tent. I opened my mouth, and then I saw him, jobless, exhausted, standing between 2 disasters he wasn't ready to face. So I made a decision only mothers understand. I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "Everything is fine." His eyes searched my face. You're sure? I nodded. I just like being outside. It helps my joints. It was the same lie I had practiced 100 times. Relief washed over his face, mixed with guilt. Good, he said. I can't handle anything else today. His wife smiled. A small, victorious smile. He reached for my hands. I'll fix things, Mom. Just give me some time. I squeezed his fingers. Take care of yourself first, I said. Inside, something broke. Because I knew the truth would crush him right now. And I loved him too much to be the one who did it. That night, he slept on the couch. I went back to the garden. Back to the tent. But this time, he knew where I was. And even though I stayed silent, the truth had already planted itself inside him. It was only a matter of time before it grew. That night was colder than the others. The kind of cold that settles into your bones and doesn't leave, no matter how tightly you wrap yourself. I was sitting outside my tent trying to warm my hands over the small stove when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It was her, my daughter-in-law. She was holding a plate. Not covered, not warm. She didn't look at me as she set it down on the crate. There, she said. Dinner. The smell reached me before I touched it. Sour. Stale. Rice clumped together, hard at the edges. Vegetables that had clearly been cooked hours ago. She folded her arms. Eat it or don't, she said. I'm not your maid. Then she turned to leave. I stared at the plate. For a moment, I considered eating it anyway. Hunger has a way of killing pride. But my hands shook. Not from hunger. From something worse. Is this what you're feeding her? The voice came from behind her. Sharp. Controlled. Dangerous. She froze. I looked up. My son was standing there, barefoot, hair messy, eyes dark with anger. He must have followed her. He stepped forward and picked up the plate. He sniffed it. Then his jaw tightened. This is spoiled, he said quietly. She rolled her eyes. She's exaggerating. It's fine. He turned to me. Mom, did you eat this before? I shook my head. I didn't want to waste it, I whispered. That was the wrong answer. He set the plate down slowly. Too slowly. You're giving my mother rotten food, he said. She crossed her arms harder. She lives outside by choice. What do you expect? Restaurant service? That's when he lost it. By choice, he snapped. His voice echoed across the garden. She's my mother. She raised me. And you're handing her garbage like she's a stray animal. Lower your voice, she hissed. The neighbors will hear. Good, he said. Let them. He turned to me. Go inside, he said gently. Now. I hesitated. I don't want to cause trouble. You're not, he said. I am. He grabbed a blanket from the clothesline and wrapped it around my shoulders himself. His hands were shaking. I should have seen this, he whispered. I should have known. She stood there, stunned. This is my house, she snapped. And she is not your responsibility anymore. That sentence ended something. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. No, he said slowly. This was my mother's house before it was yours. Silence fell between them. Heavy, unfixable. He helped me stand. And as we walked toward the back door together, I realized something had shifted. He still didn't know everything, but he knew enough. And once a child sees his parent being humiliated, there is no one seeing it. The moment we stepped inside, she slammed the back door shut. So now you're putting on a show, she snapped. In front of your mother? My son didn't answer right away. He helped me sit on a chair near the kitchen table, pulled another blanket from the sofa, made sure I was warm. Every small action felt louder than shouting. I asked you something, she said sharply. You're embarrassing me. That's when he turned. His voice wasn't loud. It was calm, and that scared her. Embarrassing, he said. You fed my mother spoiled food. She's old, she replied coldly. She doesn't even notice. I felt that sentence land on me like a slap. Before I could speak, my son stepped forward. You don't get to decide her worth, he said. Not in this house. Not anywhere. She laughed, short, bitter. Let's be honest, she said. This house is in my name. You were gone. Someone had to manage things. I looked up sharply. My son froze. In your name, he asked. What do you mean? She realized too late that she'd said too much. I mean, she hesitated, then hardened. Your mother signed papers. Everything is legal. I felt my chest tighten. He looked at me. Mom, he asked softly. What papers? I swallowed. I wanted to lie again, but something in his eyes stopped me. I didn't understand them, I said quietly. They said it was for convenience. The room went silent. You took advantage of her, he said, turning back to his wife. She's an adult, she snapped. She should have read. She had a stroke, he said. You knew that. She scoffed. People recover. She's not helpless. That was it. That was the line. He slammed his hand on the table. Enough. I flinched. I trusted you, he said, his voice breaking for the first time. I trusted you with my mother. She stared at him, stunned. You're choosing her over me, she asked. He didn't hesitate. I'm choosing right over wrong. Her face twisted. If you take her side, she said slowly, don't expect me to stay. He nodded. Then don't. She grabbed her phone and keys. You'll regret this, she said. You've lost your job. You have nothing without me. He looked at me, then back at her. I still have my conscience, he said. And my mother. She walked out. The door slammed. The house felt different immediately. Quieter. Heavier. Honest. My son sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't protect you. I reached out and held his head against my chest, the way I used to when he was small. You're here now, I said. That's enough. Outside, the tent stood empty. Inside, the truth had finally come home. The house stayed quiet long after she left. Not peaceful, just hollow. My son sat at the table, staring at the same spot on the wood, as if answers might rise out of it if he waited long enough. I'm going to look through the files, he said finally. The ones she kept locked. I didn't stop him. Some truths insist on being seen. The cabinet in the study had a new lock. He broke it with a screwdriver and more anger than strength. Inside were folders, neat, labeled, organized. Too organized. He pulled them out one by one, spreading them across the desk. Deeds, bank statements, power of attorney documents. His hands started shaking. Mom, he said slowly, did you know she had access to all your accounts? I shook my head. She said it was for emergencies, I replied. In case something happened again. Something had happened again. Just not to her. He scanned the statements. Large transfers. Regular withdrawals. Money moving out quietly, steadily for months. Why didn't I see this? He whispered. Why didn't I check? I watched my son break in a way I hadn't seen since his father died. Not loudly. Internally. Then he found the deed. The house. My house. The one I'd lived in for over 40 years. His face went pale. It's not in your name anymore, he said. It's joint. Yours and hers. I sat down. The room tilted. She told me it was temporary, I said. So things would be easier. He closed his eyes. She planned this, he said. From the start. There was a long silence. Then he stood up. I'm calling a lawyer, he said. I reached out and stopped him. Don't, I said gently. He turned, shocked. She's taken enough from you, he said. Let me fix this. I shook my head. You already lost your job, I said. You don't need another war. He stared at me. You're still protecting me, he said. I smiled sadly. That's what mothers do. He sat back down, exhausted. I didn't know, he said quietly. But I should have. I put my hand over his. What matters, I said, is what you do now. That night, for the first time in months, I slept inside the house. In the guest room, on clean sheets. My son sat on the floor beside the bed until I fell asleep. Outside, the garden was empty, but something told me this was not the end of the fight, just the end of pretending. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, not because of pain, not because of cold, because my chest felt heavy, the kind of heaviness that comes when secrets stay buried too long. My son was already in the kitchen when I walked in, staring into a cup of untouched coffee. He looked up quickly. Did you sleep okay? He asked. I nodded. Then I sat across from him. We need to talk, I said. He straightened. I didn't tell you everything, I began. Not last night. Not before. His jaw tightened. Tell me now, he said. So I did. I told him about the bedroom door. How it had been locked the first night. Then about the couch. Then the floor. I told him how she'd said I was a burden. How she didn't want me in her way. I told him about the food, the cold nights, the tent, the warnings not to stress him, the lies she'd spoken on the phone while I stood 10 feet away. He didn't interrupt once. His hands curled into fists. By the time I finished, his eyes were red. She made you live outside, he said slowly. In your own house. I nodded. For 3 months. He pushed his chair back and stood up. I thought he was angry. But when he turned around, I saw something worse. Shame. Why didn't you call me? He asked. Why didn't you tell me? I reached for his hand. Because you were working, I said. And because you loved her. His voice cracked. And you didn't think I loved you enough? I looked down. I didn't want to be the reason your life fell apart. He dropped back into the chair, covering his face. I failed you, he whispered. I shook my head. No, I said gently. You were deceived. There's a difference. After a long silence, he looked up. I'm not letting this go, he said. Not now. Not ever. I held his gaze. I'm not asking you to fight, I said. I'm asking you to choose what kind of man you want to be. He nodded. I already did, he said. Outside, the garden looked different in the daylight. Not like a place of punishment anymore, but like a witness. And I knew something was coming. Something final. She came back that evening. Not quietly. Not ashamed. Her car pulled into the driveway like nothing had happened. Confident. Familiar. Entitled. I was in the living room with my son, folding laundry that still smelled faintly of the garden air. When the front door opened, she walked in as if she owned the silence. You've calmed down yet? She asked him, dropping her bag on the chair. He didn't answer. She looked at me. For the first time in months, she really looked at me. Still wrapped in a borrowed sweater. Still moving slowly. Still there. Her lips tightened. So, she said, you told her everything, didn't you? My son stood up. No, he said evenly. She told me. Her face changed. Not guilt. Calculation. She's exaggerating, she said quickly. You know how dramatic she gets. He didn't raise his voice. That's interesting, he replied. Because she never raised it either. She scoffed. You're really going to throw away your marriage over this? He stepped closer. You already did, he said. She turned to me then. This was never personal, she said coldly. I just needed boundaries. I met her eyes. Boundaries don't lock people outside, I said. They don't feed them spoiled food. And they don't erase them from their own home. Her jaw clenched. You should have known your place. The room went very still. That's enough, my son said. He moved between us. This ends now. She laughed, sharp and brittle. And what exactly are you going to do? She asked. You don't have a job. You don't have savings. And legally, he interrupted. You abused a vulnerable adult. Her smile vanished. He picked up his phone. I've already spoken to a lawyer, he said. And tomorrow, I'm filing for separation. She stared at him. You wouldn't dare. I already did, he said. For the first time, fear crossed her face. You're choosing her, she said quietly. He nodded. I'm choosing truth. She grabbed her bag. This isn't over, she snapped. No, he replied. It is. The door closed behind her. This time it didn't echo. My son turned to me. I don't know how to fix everything, he said. But I promise you one thing. What? I asked. You will never sleep outside again. That night, I lay in a real bed. The house was still broken, but it was honest now. And honesty, I learned, is the first step toward healing. The next morning, my son, my own child, not her child, sat across from me at the kitchen table. He looked steady, too steady. Mom, he said, I need you to call her. I felt my chest tighten. She's been messaging me, he continued, saying she doesn't want a divorce, saying we should talk like family. I shook my head slowly. After everything she did? He nodded. That's exactly why, he said. And before you call, I've turned the recording on. He placed my phone in my hand. Just ask her about the house and the money, he said calmly. Let her talk. I pressed call. She answered immediately. Her voice was soft, sweet, as if nothing had happened. Oh, I'm glad you called, she said. We shouldn't fight like this. I just need clarity, I replied. You added your name to my house. You made my savings joint. You did it without my son knowing. There was a short silence. Then she sighed. Yes, she said plainly. And now I asked. You still want the marriage to continue? Of course, she replied quickly. I don't want a divorce. Why? I asked. Her tone changed. Because she thought she was safe. Because I already have what matters, she said. The house. The money. My hand started shaking. And don't think your son will walk away either, she continued. Just like I took the house from you. I can take him too. I froze. What do you mean? I whispered. She laughed. I'll poison him against you, she said casually. Slowly. Quietly. I'll make him believe you're the problem. I felt sick. You already tried, I said. And it almost worked, she replied. But give me time. The call ended. For a moment, the kitchen was silent. Then my son reached over and gently took the phone from my hand. Mom, he said quietly. I heard everything. I looked at him. You recorded it? I asked. He nodded. Every word. He pressed stop. Then he looked at me, not as a boy anymore, but as a man who finally understood the depth of the betrayal. She didn't just steal from you, he said. She tried to erase you from my life. He stood up. This recording changes everything, he said. Now she can't lie. She can't twist the story. I felt tears rise in my eyes. You shouldn't have had to hear that, I whispered. He shook his head. No, he said. I should have heard it sooner. That recording didn't just protect me. It protected our bond. And for the first time since all this began, I knew one thing for sure. She could never turn my son against me again. 2 weeks later, my son filed the cases. Not one, two. Fraud, for taking my house and savings through deception. Divorce, for cruelty, manipulation, and financial abuse. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He let the law do what silence never could. The courtroom was cold. She sat on one side, confident, well-dressed, whispering to her lawyer. I sat behind my son, my hands folded, my heart pounding. When the judge asked why the case was being filed so suddenly, her lawyer stood up and said, "This is a misunderstanding within a family." That's when my son stood. "Your Honor," he said calmly, "I'd like to submit an audio recording." She turned. For the first time, I saw fear on her face. The room went silent as the recording played. Her voice echoed through the courtroom, clear, unfiltered, admitting she took the house, admitting she took the money, admitting she manipulated me, admitting she planned to turn my son against me. No explanations, no excuses, just truth. Her lawyer tried to object. Too late. The judge raised a hand. "I've heard enough," he said. The ruling came faster than anyone expected. The judge looked directly at her. "You abused a position of trust," he said. "You exploited a vulnerable elder, and you did so intentionally." Then he turned to my son. "The property," he continued, "will be transferred back into the mother's name immediately." I felt my breath leave my body. "The savings," he added, "will be returned in full." My knees weakened. Finally, the words that closed a chapter. The court grants the divorce. No conditions. No delays. Final. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply sat there, staring forward, as if the world had finally stopped bending for her. Outside the courtroom, my son turned to me. "It's yours again," he said. "Your house. Your life." I touched his face. "Thank you," I whispered. He shook his head. "I didn't save you," he said. "I finally stopped letting someone hurt you." We walked out together, not as victims, not as survivors, but as a mother and son who chose truth over comfort, and won.